Welcome to Homesroom. Just like Homeroom, we start off our day getting together with our homies, swapping stories, even a little kiss and tell action. This podcast contains language not suitable for younger listeners, topics about sex and mental health. Discretion is advised. Our views are our own. Let class begin. Welcome back to another episode of Homesroom. We are excited about this one because we keep telling each other, let's do more episodes that fire us up. And one of us was definitely fired up. And this is actually a topic that fired the other one up too. We'll let you guess who was fired up first in this one. But it's me and Kaitlin again. What's up, Kaitlin? How are you?
I told you right before we hit record, and I'll say it again while we are recording, I'm running on fumes right now, and that's just motherhood working. My kids are just freaking bonkers. Life is crazy. But if I have energy and passion about any topic, that I'm going to happily reach and scrape the bottom of the barrel of my energy sources for the day to do a service to, it's this fucking topic. So, well, here we are. We're less than like a minute in and I already dropped an F-bomb. Dang it.
We were talking before this, so there's like we were talking about having an explicit tag, and that is the reason we have an explicit tag. But I love it.
Sorry.
You said you were running on fumes, and when you said it originally, I really, really, really wanted to like say it then, but I wanted to save it for the episode because today, in past time when we were recording this, the episode about intrusive thoughts dropped, and I like talked to my best friend about it. She was like thrilled about the episode, and this is an episode that I like shouted her out in our relationship, and I was like, that's awesome. And she said she enjoys our relationship because it seems, super genuine, and we make tough topics somehow flow and seem like inviting. And I was like, yeah, to me it makes me think of like catching up with an old friend that you haven't seen in a really long time every week, and like we both come away from like low energy episodes where we're like, man, I'm just not feeling it, I'm exhausted, I'm this, I'm that, and I feel like we come away from it when we have that energy and we're like, damn, I needed that, thanks. And I thought that was
maybe
really
maybe this is something that will give me that extra hit of energy to deal with this giant pile of clean laundry that's just out of frame in my she cave. So, but no, that's very sweet. And I totally agree. I have several friends like that in real life. And the best thing about adulthood friendships is, the friendships that are low maintenance, but you see each other for like the first time in months and you just pick up immediately where you left off and like no time has passed. I have several of those. But plot twist for you, Matt, is I've only ever seen you as a face on my iPad screen. We've never actually met in real life. So, but yeah, shout back out to our therapy episode. I just recently found out that my therapist is no longer in network for my health insurance.
Oh, damn.
So, I took a month or two off. I tried to get back into it because I was just like displaying some of those toxic behaviors where I knew like I needed to get back into it. And she texted me the day of our first session back, and she said, hey, I just want to let you know I'm not in your network anymore. And I said, yeah, I'm going to have to cancel for today because, like we said in that episode, those sessions are $120 in network. And I was like, no, I don't know if I can swing it. So all that to say, Matt, not that you're a stand-in for a therapist, but a conversation with a friend sometimes can be just as rewarding and clarifying and bring me a level of peace as a $120 therapy session. So no pressure.
As you say that, I'm over here like holding my face, trying not to laugh into the microphone and ruin your like good, like your troubling moment, because all I thought of is like we haven't met each other in real life, and we've just been faces. I've literally never seen you standing up, so like usually sitting down, and I was like, what if we're both shorter than the other thought or taller than the other thought, and how funny would that be? Like it'd just be so like the worst like blind date moment. And I was like, I can't say that now because she's going
we're both married.
Like,
we'll do one episode where like torso reveal, like, hey, what's up? You've never seen me from below the shoulders, but no, it's totally, you're gonna roll up and be like a whole 2 heads taller than me. I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah, I know, that's why it's so funny. And I was like, I didn't think about it till you said it, and I was like, damn, that would be so like. That is funny. But yeah.
Hell yeah.
Anyway, like I said, I was super excited, and that episode for me is huge because that was like a test for the relationship that we were going to be able to have, and we didn't know it. Is I texted you and I was like, yo, I'm kind of not feeling it, and you showed up for me in an amazing way, and I thought that was really awesome. And then like I've already gotten feedback from a lot of people about that episode and how they felt like the feeling was good and they could relate to the things that we were saying. And I thought that was like, damn, I just thought I was venting for like an hour is what I felt like after that episode. And that's not what I want to do on this. So
at the very least, even if they are our venting sessions, hopefully you're at least our listeners, our listeners are walking away entertained in some way, shape or form, right?
Well, if I can make you laugh once, you owe us a gift for Christmas. I'm just joking.
At least a review or a like and follow on Instagram. Hey, what's up?
Or Threads. There we go. That's the new one. I had to think about it.
I'm still just not really getting into Threads. Like, I just feel like the most random whatever. We can digress.
hopefully it'll get better. So Kaitlin, what are we going to talk about today?
So, a little context here, friends. I texted Matt when we first started having conversation about what topics we wanted to talk about after our Spooky Ooky Halloween series was over with. And I think it was 2 days before we filmed the last Halloween episode, I said, Matt, we need to do a whole episode dedicated to the topic of body count.
Yeah.
And you were like, yeah, I mean, we can maybe work that into this last Halloween episode if you want. I was like, no, Matt, you don't understand. I am so fucking fired up about this topic that this needs a whole episode. And here I have in front of me, I have, some bullet points. I have a specific individual that I want to cite and share with you some of the things that have come out of her damn mouth. But thank you so much for at least entertaining me with all of this. And, I agree. For us, I think the conversations about topics that we get the most heated about are the ones that we personally feel are the episodes that are the most, do the best in terms of chemistry between two co-hosts. Hopefully our listeners are also enjoying them. But I got to this topic because for whatever reason, I don't know what I did to the YouTube gods. I've recently started flipping through my shorts feed on YouTube, and more content that I'm getting on my YouTube shorts is so brain rotten, actual legitimate brain rot. And let me tell you, some people will probably listen to our podcast, Matt, and say that we are brain rot. And that's fine too. Brain rot and subscribers. We're on the internet for entertainment. It is what it is. This specific kind of brain rot just gets me fired up. Our Stitched, one of these shorts, it was a PragerU clip where one of their younger female hosts was saying, spouting off some nonsense about Megan Fox. Megan Fox has 3 sons. Currently, all 3 of her sons express themselves by wearing more feminine clothing. And this younger gal who, my whole point to this, she already so irritated. Can you tell, dude? Okay. Yeah. Blah, blah. So she's starting to spout off this whole rant about how she hopes that Megan Fox's sons just happen to be interested in wearing girls' clothing because this ideology that Megan Fox is harming her sons by putting them in and forcing them to do that and this, that. And it was just this whole ridiculous rant that, like, just made no sense based off of a single picture of Megan Fox and her 3 sons walking across the street together. And her boys were wearing, I think one of them was wearing like a pink shirt, and maybe they were all wearing girls' clothing. But first and foremost, so the fuck what? Second of all, when I stitched this, my response to that was, well, maybe Megan Fox is just doing her best as a mom to support her children with what they need right now, and the rest is nobody else's business. Especially not PragerU's. I did say that last part. But the whole point of all of this that I got into that was Megan Fox played the hot girl in a couple movies many years ago. Not many, but like several years ago, you know. That does not mean that we are entitled to the intimate decision-making that she goes through every day as a mother. And so what if her boys are wearing girls' clothing for right now? That doesn't mean they will always do that. That does not even necessarily mean that those children are interested in transitioning to a woman. It's just, hey, I like this pink shirt. Okay, wear this pink shirt. Speaking from experience with a unruly goblin of a 2-year-old who I love dearly. I love her so much. Sometimes it's just easier to send her to daycare in a tutu and fucking rain boots than it is to have to, you know, as a mom, you got to pick your battles. I don't care. You know, none of us are entitled to that decision making. So stitched it, posted it, you know, did the whole fun influencer thing. The tater tots descended on my comment section and essentially said that I was backing up someone who was abusing her children, that California school boards would disagree with my stance, that the fact that I made my whole point was, so what? Like, okay, and somebody commented on that remix, I guess is what YouTube calls it. They don't call it stitches like TikTok. They commented on this remix and said, well, you made a video about it, so you clearly have an opinion. So therefore, you've just undermined your own ideology by making even a video about it. And I was like, oh my gosh, the circles that your brain must have just jumped through to write this fucking comment and think that was a thing that you just, oh my gosh. So anyways, all of this to summarize, I fell into a rabbit hole. And I've noticed that in the last maybe year and a half, there's a certain brand of influencer that has kind of emerged after the one and only Andrew Tate, aka Andrew Tater Tot is what I call him. Do you know who Andrew Tate is, Matt?
Actually, I do not. And I find it interesting because whenever that name comes up and I hear about it, it sounds like the most like I would detest everything about this human being because it's the exact opposite of who I am. And like I would like try and listen to that person to hear them out because I want to try and hear everybody out. But I would end up being like, you know, there's no point in even talking to you because you're so dense and caught up in your own world that like it's not worth it. Like I would better serve going to talk to somebody I've never met that doesn't speak my language, and I'd probably have a better conversation.
Well, you definitely wouldn't lose as many brain cells as you would trying to have a conversation with Andrew Tate. Andrew Tate is no role model. As we are currently recording this, he is charged with human trafficking and several other horrific crimes involving him using what's called the pretty boy method to get women to come and work for him as a cam service. He created a educational website called Hustlers University, is what it's called, unironically, Hustlers University. And he has several clips of him talking about women in a very like derogatory manner that have gone very viral. If any of our listeners enjoy Andrew Tate's content, like, it is what it is. Everybody who's a consumer of content online each subscribes to their own different kind of brain rot. Personally, Andrew Tater Tot is a specific like brand of brain rot. He believes that women are stupid and we don't understand taxes. He said that to get a higher percentage of the income that his cam girls were making him, he would just lie to them and print out some bullshit tax form and say, you made 10 grand, you have to give me 8 of that. And then another like 500 on top of that because of taxes. And he was legitimately will look in the camera and say, women are stupid and they don't understand taxes. What else? He thinks that drinking bottled water is stupid. If you do not have a Bugatti, you are not a high value man. All kinds of other things. I have seen more clips than that. I have another character full of brain rot to dive into this. So here's the head of the snake, Mr. Tater Tot himself. The female version of Tater Tot, her name is, she's known online as Just Pearly Things. Have you ever heard that name before?
I have not.
Okay.
You know, I just want to say, we talk about it all the time. You can curate your feed to show you what you want and what you don't want. And it, like, when people are like, oh, haven't you seen XY video? And I'm like, no. It's like, that's, if it ain't a car and it's posted by somebody stupid, I don't care. Like, that's usually the only stupid people that I follow is because they're also like a car person and they have nice cars, and I follow for the cars, and that's it. So
hell yeah, you know, like, and that means that your algorithm is working because it's showing you things you actually want to see, and none of this garbage. Yeah. So, Just Pearly Things. Her name is Pearl Davis. She's 26 years old, and she has been dubbed the female version of Andrew Tate. She has a podcast. She has been on several interviews. I personally watched recent interviews with her. She went on the H3H3 podcast where I watched that interview. And then I also watched her recently. She went on and was on a debate on the BBC. With Piers Morgan and one of his younger female cohorts on that show. She tried to be a part of a debate. And personally, my own personal opinion, what I've seen of her is her debate skills could use a little help. But Pearl likes to talk about this concept of body count. Now, Matt, you may be asking yourself, what definition of body count? Because there's two. No, I am not talking about body count in the context of combat and war, which is how many people you have killed, how many bodies you've caught while you're, fighting for the cause. Body count is what the kids are now calling, and what the kids are saying, and it refers to how many sexual partners specifically a woman has had for intercourse, sex. So Pearl likes to talk about body count as an unmarried 26-year-old fellow idiot on the internet, idiot with Mike with internet access, as we have dubbed ourselves, and now I guess are dubbing her. She speaks on behalf of women everywhere. She says she does not hate women, but many of her opinions do not fall in line with that statement at all. So I'm going to tell you direct quotes. I've got links for all of these, and we can put them in the episode description if any of you would like to go witness the brain rot yourself. Happy to be the mouthpiece here to let you know her highlight reel in my personal opinion. So first things first, Pearl Davis, Just Pearly Things, Pearly Girly, likes to say that men everywhere do not want a modern woman, or they don't want what the modern woman is comprised of today. Modern woman is somebody who's career driven. A modern woman is somebody who is opinionated. A modern woman, by today's definition, is everything that would make a housewife in the 40s probably keel over and faint. She's explicitly said that all men today do not want a modern woman. She has also explicitly said, Matt, on the interview in H3 that I watched, that she believes that women should not have the right to vote. I can't make this shit up. Her argument with women not having the right to vote was something along the lines of the vote should count for the family unit. If the husband and the wife are trying to have a vote that will tear up the family. At the end of the day, all these things that she's concerned about are all about the family unit, the children, what a family is and should be. So because of the family unit, she also believes that divorce should be outlawed. She explicitly said that divorce has ruined families in the United States. The host of H3 asked her specifically, what about in instances of abuse where the wife is being abused by the husband? Should the wife be able to get divorced then? And she said that, yeah, they should be, but that's actually a very, very, very small percentage. And women claim physical abuse more than it actually happens statistically. The fun thing about Pearl, she talks out of her ass a lot. She has zero clue what she's talking about. She doesn't have resources or sites or sources for a lot of the things that come out of her mouth. Specifically, she says that 80% of women have sex with 5% of men, specifically on dating apps. That it's just a fact of science that 80% of women have sex with 5% of men. So women, they cannot, something along the lines of, women think they're a 10, but they're actually 5 because they're out there having sex with all the 9s and 10s. Just because that's the part of the 5%. The 5% are the most desirable men, and that 5%, they're the ones who are lucky enough to be sleeping with 80% of all women. So if any of our listeners, if you've been lucky enough to be called on to participate in any of Pearl's surveys or any surveys about your online dating activity, let me know, because I've never been asked to vouch for any of some of these studies that she says. It's just absolutely insane. She very vocally disavows sleeping around, is what she calls it. She very seriously is super outspoken about the concept of body count and how women, the higher the body count they have, the less valuable and the less desirable they are. First and foremost, let's call it what it is. You're not talking about a body count. You're talking about promiscuity. Mm-hmm. If it's a duck, let's call it a duck. Let's stop beating around the bush. You're talking about promiscuity. And here we are again, Matt, in 2023, having more conversations to try and convince some of these brain-rotten people that women are not just objects put on this planet for sexual gratification for men. You know?
Correct. Yeah.
Here we are again, having to revisit some of these prehistoric fucking topics that, first and foremost, if it's coming from a religious connotation, I don't want to talk about it with you, because separation of church and state, point blank, period. Any of your ideology that is founded on what the Bible says and what the Bible says, if that's your vibe, that's your vibe. It's not personally mine, and it's definitely not something that I'm going to allow other people to have strong opinions about and then use that as their viewpoint to tell me how I should be living my life. So, we're talking about promiscuity. She specifically has said on her podcast, I watched this video clip before, while I was getting my notes together to talk about this topic, Matt, where she says that women, it is a bad thing biologically if they sleep around, because they cannot pair bond with men. They compare all their sexual interactions with past interactions. She implies that means that women cannot emotionally bond with a man after they have multiple sexual partners. So, if you're following, Matt, she's using pseudoscience, trying to pretend that it is actual science, to use her own internalized misogyny to call out other women for things that are absolutely none of her business. Pair bond. Pair bond, first and foremost, fun fact, in the whole United, animal kingdom, only 3% of all species pair bond. Pair bond is what it sounds like. It is a pair bonding. It's a monogamous relationship. Pair meaning both sides have to, be in on the bond. That's how a monogamous relationship works. So you're trying to tell us, Pearly, girly, that women are not able to have a biological response and have a monogamous relationship the more sexual partners that they have. That doesn't make sense to me. I'll be the first to proudly say and admit I'm not a biologist. I'm not, which is why I did sought out the opinion of an actual biologist on this topic. I found a Reddit post, which, if it's on Reddit, it must be true. But I like what this person said and how they worded it. So the topic of this Reddit post is women do not pair bond. It's sexist pseudoscience, which is how I worked in that fancy word there. This author says, I've been seeing a lot of claims lately about women, quote, destroying their ability to pair bond, typically attributed to sleeping around. As a biology student, I want to set the record straight. There are few scientists who claim to be studying if humans have a comparable trait, but there is no conclusive proof, and human behavior throughout the millennia clearly does not fit the definition of true pair bonding. A pair bonding is a trait that some bird species have, rarely mammals and not primates. The pair bonding does not mean they are sexually monogamous. They prefer a certain partner. Their lack of monogamy doesn't destroy the pair bond. So the claim that a female who has any previous partners at all can't pair bond doesn't even apply to animals that do pair bond. So the species of animals that biologists can conclusively say have this trait, that they do pair bond, that concept doesn't even apply to sexual partners.
Yeah.
So, hold on. I'm almost through with this rant. I freaking promise. What I found most comical about one of her recent debates, which I talked about on BBC, she is 26. She spouts all of this crazy anti-feminist rhetoric. She doesn't doesn't provide any sources for any of the statistics that she just whips out. On this interview on H3, she had people doing research for her and kind of got tripped up and caught with that being a thing, which is fine because the host of H3 does that too. She just was kind of disingenuous with the presentation of it and didn't say hey, I have people that are doing research for me, you have people doing research for you. It was just very disingenuous, the whole thing. She was on BBC, interview with Piers Morgan, younger cohort, who's also a female who subscribed to more feminist ideologies. First of all, it was kind of a gross thing to watch because Pierce was just sitting back and watching girls catfight. And that wasn't, that's not great. Made for great entertaining TV, which I'm sure is what he was celebrating, but it just kind of looked like it just read like he just sat back and was watching two young gals go at it, and he just was getting his rocks off on being entertained of women tearing other women down. So this younger cohort on BBC called Pearl out and said that following the ideology that Pearl spouts, by Pearl's own logic, she will never be an ideal woman and will never be seen as an ideal wife because Pearl herself is not a virgin, is very open about the fact that she's not a virgin, and Pearl also has a career. I'll add to that and say that not only that, Pearl's an idiot with a microphone with internet access. You think that any man's going to want a strong, opinionated female that's younger, clearly enjoys the limelight, and makes no issue of just spouting off insane anti-feminist rhetoric? I personally, yes, I have a personal bias against a lot of the things that she says. I don't even know what the definition of a modern woman is, let alone if she's qualified as an unmarried 26-year-old that doesn't really have an actual solid 9-to-5 and has never been in a solid workplace as far as I know. And I've done some research, Matt. I don't know if you can tell. I don't know that she's qualified to speak on behalf of all men everywhere. But I know that it's okay for people to have differing opinions. I welcome it. I very clearly welcome it. But when we're talking about body count, which is actually promiscuity, we can't talk about these topics without getting into slut shaming, and how this concept of promiscuity, how unfairly the scales tip between women and men. Mm-hmm. I have a couple more talking points, but I'm going to turn it over to you for a second. Please give me some thoughts, because if I didn't know any better, I feel like I'm describing an insane South Park character, but this is a real life human being who's only 3 years younger than me. And God knows what kind of fucking damage she's doing to girls who are 5 years younger than her, who all they see is what they perceive as a strong woman who's not scared to say the thing that none of us want to say. And she has this huge following. She's got she has several million followers on YouTube. And I don't get this, Matt. Sorry. Thoughts? Question mark?
Well, number one, there's 4 things that I thought of. I went and looked up the Instagram account attached to that name, and not a single person I follow follows that account. So that goes to show.
That's a good friend check. Hold on, let me do that.
Yeah, it's just, to me, that's how I is this thing for me? Does anybody I follow them? Do we have anything in common? Would I like the things that you post? And generally, if I don't have anything, then chances are you and I don't see the things the same way. So that was point number one when you asked if I knew who that was, because I definitely did not, and there's not even a reason why I would have crossed paths with that account, because it doesn't sound like anything I would want. My social media, again, like I said, is kind of things I want to see and things that I want to learn from, and that's not something I want to learn from. There's people that I do follow that are on that side of the line, because I want to hear what they have to say, because sometimes they make good points. I'm I've said it before, I am a gun owner. I am there's a lot of things that I believe that kind of cross both sides of that line.
There's a Venn diagram there, but it's not a full fucking circle, which is why we have a podcast together, Matt.
Exactly. So there's some people. But for her specifically, there's the Instagram account tied to that name. I don't have any followers for. So that's number one. Number two.
Neither do I. Just checked. By the way.
One of the things that always bugs me about 50s ideology, women should be in the kitchen, barefoot and pregnant kind of women, is that their platform is only possible by the sweat and blood of the women who fought for their right to have the potential to speak. So there's you even speaking openly outside of your home is in essence the opposite ideology of what you're preaching. You can have an opinion, but your opinion should either be kept to yourself, or it should not leave your house. That is the root of that, and that bugs me.
That is very true, but I've also seen some combat vets who have said, I've gone to war for every American, even those who have burned the American flag at protests, which, of course, I don't subscribe to that, that's a waste of a good American flag. You probably paid money for that, unless you stole it from somewhere, but whatever. Criminal activity and all the things. We don't need to digress. There are women who died in the suffrage movement, during the suffrage movement, during the Votes for Women era. There are women who marched during civil rights movement, just so that Pearl Davis could pick up a microphone and spout some nonsense that goes 100% against what those women fought for. Now, I understand your point. I get it. I don't want to get too far down a rabbit hole of talking about First Amendment, freedom of speech, our country is a great melting pot, all of those things. But part of me has to wonder, who's paying her fucking bills? The H3 podcast kind of went into this thing about her being maybe the concept of being a right-wing grifter, how it's just easy money for some of these people to pick up a microphone and start saying what is it, that Family Guy bit where Lois is running for president and she just says 9/11 and the whole auditorium bursts into applause. It's kind of that same thing where she's just women are stupid, and then all the all of those things. So I don't know. The more I'm trying to figure it out, I don't understand it. I was reading a little bit more about her on a biographical sense, just to try and understand maybe where, some people were raised completely different than how I was. I have strong opinions about things. Other people have super strong opinions about things. Some of those things came from our parents. Fun fact about Pearl Davis, she grew up in the suburbs of Chicago in a mansion in a 10-bedroom house. She has 9 siblings, both parents. Her mom, Jennifer, was on the board of directors for the UN to support gender equality.
Oh, that's interesting.
Huh?
Yeah.
What? What is happening? As far as I can tell, too, it doesn't look like she's been super out and about and super active. And again, what I'm not here to do is speak poorly on other women just because they're women. That's what Pearl likes to do, I'm here to call out ideology that's not sound, that I personally don't agree with. And I started thinking too, I'm if I just Google promiscuity, what are most of the topics of articles about? Could you guess what gender they were derogatory towards that?
I have one guess. I don't know if you can guess what my one guess would be, but pretty sure it's going to be the fairer sex if I had to guess.
I don't understand fully. Maybe it's because I'm uneducated. If any of our listeners can maybe help educate me, this idea of promiscuity, why does it so unfairly apply to the two different genders? Why can't women do anything without getting judgment? Second of all.
Yeah.
Third of all, I was on my third or fourth just random keyword search of promiscuity, men versus women, women versus men, slut shaming, body count, all of those different keywords, just trying to see what keywords I could play with before I actually got something that was not an article that Pearly Girly would like to read. I finally just had to Google straight up the phrase myths about slut shaming, myths about promiscuity. I literally had to go out and find what I was specifically looking for, because the random keywords about promiscuity only resulted in articles shitting on women.
Ooh, yeah.
So I found an article. It is myths about promiscuity in women that we need to unlearn. So I just grabbed 4 of these myths. The first one, this is the myth that promiscuous women are dirty and they are more likely to have STIs. Obviously a myth. Born and raised in the Bible Belt, I can see how some women might subscribe to this ideology. I know that I, at a very young age, was told, your body is a temple. What would you... No, oh my God, Matt, I got to tell you the story. So I was born and raised here in Missouri, and there was a point in my life in high school where I got super plugged into my local church, and it was at this point in my life that I was about to go off to college. I was starting to play with the idea of getting a tattoo for my mom. I was like, if I get a tattoo, I really want it to be something that's meaningful to me. So I went out and got it. It is a blue rose on my rib cage. She had blue roses at her wedding. It's a very fitting tribute to her. I got it when I was 18. One of the ladies at church tried to talk me out of getting a tattoo so badly. She goes, what would you do if you showed up to church one day and there was a huge mural of graffiti all along the whole side of the building and you're just showing up there trying to worship God? How would that make you feel? I'm like, well, if it's criminal activity, like, charge the fuckers with it. But like, Yeah. I also had another woman, like higher up woman in the church. I'm not going to say elder because women are not seen as leaders in the church. So whatever, I digress. When she was younger, she didn't get like a meaningful tattoo. She got a little tiny itty bitty cartoon character of a devil on the side of her leg. She was trying so hard to convince me not to get a tattoo that she pulled up videos on her phone and showed me the video of her getting that tattoo removed because she, got saved. She found Jesus, all the other things. She regretted deeply getting that tattoo, and she felt like super called and convicted to get it taken off of her because she's got a little devil on her. Here she is trying to be a follower of Jesus and all the things. She goes, oh, this laser made my blood work go crazy. I had like an autoimmune disorder and all these other things. And I'm like, I'm just trying to get a tattoo for my dead mom. But like, okay, pop off. I said, those were your journeys. That was for you. For me, I want to do something nice, and I want to get something that's super meaningful for me. And it's not like I'm getting it on my fucking forehead, man. I got it on the side of my ribcage. It's my very first tattoo. The first lady that told me about the graffiti on the side of the church, when she heard that I got a tattoo, because I'm a big mouth, I can't just not say that I didn't get a tattoo. The very next time that she saw me in person after I got this tattoo, she literally just looked at me and she just had the saddest look on her face. And she said, I am so disappointed in you. Oh. And older me would have popped the fuck off and been like, well, bitch, you're not paying half my bills, so what the shit? I don't give a shit. Younger me just felt so guilty that these older women who invested all this time into teaching me and all this time when I'm not around praying for me and time praying over our communities. There are these role models who have these godly marriages, and I should do nothing but try to be exactly like them. These are the same women who are instilling purity culture. They instilled purity culture in me. They did the same fucking thing to me. I know that they're doing the same to other women still to this day because that's just how the machine works, Yeah. When we're talking about promiscuity, especially the concept of being dirty, like, you are not valued less as a human. You're still who you are. It does not matter how many sexual partners that you have. If you're being smart, if you're being safe, and if you're having fun, like, go off, sis. Do you know how many suburban moms are like living vicariously through you? No, I'm kidding. But, your humanity does not lessen the more sexual partners that you haven't. And it's also kind of towing this line of like, oh, well, the more sexual partners you have, the less that you subscribe to monogamy. Plenty of married couples had sex with people before they actually got married, before they even started talking to whoever it was that they ended up getting married. It's part of the human experience. Your humanity does not diminish because, okay. Second myth. I'm getting hated, Matt. You're going to have to fight to get a word in edgewise. God damn. Second myth. Promiscuous women sleep with everyone. There seems to be a persistent belief that sluts will sleep with anything that moves. Some of this stems from the male gaze-ridden fantasy of universal sexual availability. When we start talking about that, we're talking about, oh, well, women love sex. If women love sex, then anyone should be able to take that anytime they want. No woman should be treated as anyone's personal ATM for sexual gratification. Sure, you enjoy sex, but you probably don't bed everyone you meet for the sake of your next orgasm. That's a quote from this article.
I like it.
Yeah, it's a myth, and I don't even know, like, somebody's definition of promiscuous is so subjective, because the fact that I'm sitting here in front of sitting here in front of a mic with my hair out for the world to see, I'm considered promiscuous. You know, it's so subjective. Third myth, promiscuous women have no morals. Apparently, this myth, if a woman sleeps with too many people, she's a failure in every aspect of social life and her character is ruined forever. This myth is that sluts are dangerous because of their lack of morals. It indicates their unwillingness to follow rules, which in turn means that they are less likely to be governed by patriarchal standards of proper conduct for women. And literally the next line of this article is, this isn't the 1930s.
Yeah.
Like, what is it? Mike and Dave Need Wedding Dates. It's a super fun movie with Aubrey Plaza. And there's an episode. Early on in the movie, they're working in this restaurant, and Anna Kendrick goes, "Yeah, it's 2022. Women can do stuff." Like, that's just how I picture the next line out of it. Women don't marry their high school sweethearts at 16 and only have sex for the sake of pleasing their husbands and having kids. But that is a patriarchal utopia, isn't it?
That one grosses me out so much. Like, that one's bad.
Yes, it is. Last myth, and then I have a question to you as a parent. Last myth, that there's several in this article. I just hit the highlights of things that spoke to me. Last myth is that promiscuous women aren't worthy of respect. It's the most damaging assumption by far. There's so much toxic rhetoric around promiscuity, and it's so easy to internalize slut shaming. I'll add to this sentence by saying, especially when it's other women who are judging you more harshly than anybody else will. I see this in motherhood. It's like nobody's up my ass more about my parenting decisions other than other mothers who think that because they've done this song and dance that they, whatever. The amount of sex that someone has does not undermine their self-worth. No exceptions. The only people who have a say about your sex life are people who are having sex with you. And even them, only to an extent. I don't know why we're still having some of these conversations. And listen, I get it. I can see how some of the things that I just said and said out loud from a feminist website talking about slut shaming and myths around promiscuity, how some people that know me in real life may not actually subscribe to some of that. And that's totally fine. A lot of this boils down to, yes, women were lost in the suffrage and civil rights movement. They would probably are turning over in whatever grave they're in, listening to some of the things that Pearly Girly is spouting off about. But either we are the land of the free or we're not. Either we have the freedom of fucking choice to do what we want within a certain social contract and certain, things that help instill the rule of law in our society. Either we have that freedom of choice and the freedom to pursue life, liberty, and it's literally in our fucking Bill of Rights and Constitution shit, right? It's been a long time since I've taken U.S. history. Can you tell? Either we have the freedom to pursue happiness in this country, or we don't. Just because Pearly Girly would prefer that every woman is in the kitchen making me a damn sandwich, doesn't mean that just because her ideology is different than mine, that my choice to do something different should be taken away, or my choice should be influenced because she has a different opinion than mine.
Yeah.
This whole episode is that's what she said.
It is. I was thinking we're gonna have to title it just Home's Room. That's what she said.
Okay, here's my question to you as a parent. You have 2 girls. What are we gonna do? What do we do when our daughters come home one day and they say that, oh, I was wearing this at school and somebody said something about this, or my shoulders were out and, I got in trouble at school for this, or so-and-so heard that I made out with this boy at a party and now I'm being called a whore and a slut by all the boys in class because some other girl liked that boy and now they're, ganging up on me. How are we supposed to have, in today's day and age, how are we supposed to have or even approach these conversations with our daughters about slut-shaming, promiscuity, and sexual health?
That's a really good question, actually. For me, number one is you said it, and I think that's one of the biggest things is do what you're going to do, as long as you're safe, as long as you're having fun, and as long as nobody's getting physically hurt beyond what they are consenting to, then cool. Where it comes to teenagers or middle school, high school drama, getting stuck in that cycle of well, now everybody at school is talking about me. It's in the end they're doing that because they're feeling some kind of way about themselves. It's not a reflection of you, it's a reflection of them, and it's a reflection of their beliefs, not a reflection of your beliefs. If you and whatever person did or didn't do, you know what the truth is, and you know what the intent was behind that truth. They don't, which means that their opinion honestly doesn't matter. And if you're going to continue to give their opinion weight, and I know it's hard to not give those opinions weight, and there comes a time where you have to decide if this is worth continuing to live through and deal with, or if you want to move to a different school, or you want to do something different to protect your sanity, to protect your peace. That's a whole separate conversation. But as far as the answer to that question, I honestly think that it's love and support. If you did what you wanted to do and it was something that you both were okay with doing at the time, cool. If it was something that you feel like you were kind of forced into or pressured into, not cool. And
totally different conversation.
Yeah, that's entirely different. And if it's because little Becky wanted to also make out with whoever, it's maybe you should have been less fearful of others' opinions and gone after homie, and maybe you would be the one that is on his arm and you're not, and that's again your guilt, your jealousy. That's all I can see. Again,
saying more about her than of hypothetically our daughters who are making out with boys sometime in the distant future. Our kids are very young, so whatever. What I'm going to continue that with is also I've put some thought into this, especially with having conversations with my daughter about womanhood and about supporting other women and instead of tearing them down, which is, believe it or not, sometimes a radical ideology. It doesn't matter if in this hypothetical situation where she made out with a boy and now all the girls are ganging up on her and blah, blah, blah. Didn't matter if that night, instead of making out with him, you sat in a corner and ate by yourself. Didn't matter if you stayed home by yourself and didn't even go to that party. Just like as a mom, doesn't matter if you stay home. It doesn't matter if you work. It doesn't matter what you do. Somebody will always have something to say about every single thing you do. someone will always say, oh, well, she did this. This means this about her. And this means this about her character and her integrity and this, that, whatever the fuck. Wow. Can you tell I've been like on one this week about it? Why is she working and somebody else is raising her babies at daycare? Like this, that, whatever. Like somebody is always going to have something to say about what they do. And as much as we want to protect them from that, that's just a reality, you know? Like, people always have an opinion. Now, totally validating, and we'll revisit this too someday in the distant future. Somebody saying or popping off about a random fucking opinion that doesn't serve you or educate you or grow you in any way, shape, or form says more about them than it does about you. You're off doing shit. Somebody else is sitting there watching and paying attention to what you're doing. Bored? Come on. You need a Pinterest board about hobbies? Let's go. I'll help you. We'll go to fucking Hobby Lobby together. Go do something better, you know? I don't know. I feel like personally as a young mother and as somebody who's starting to explore some of these topics in the context of grown adulthood, I feel like there's so much that I have to deprogram and process through and really kind of question, like, what is the foundational assumption? Like, why am I listening to this and feeling a certain type of way? Like, what is the foundational assumption that I'm walking into this conversation with? And why don't I agree with it? And it's not always an immediate, easy answer. Sometimes I do have to sit and think about some of these topics and be like, okay, well, I'm educated on this topic from the ladies that the only bit of support and the only way that they were worthy to, love on the church is by scheduling potlucks, because after the men ate, they went upstairs and had all the elder meetings and none of the women were allowed to go upstairs and deal with that. So the only way that they could contribute is by turning around and making little mini-me's. Can you tell some of this is religious trauma?
Maybe.
You know, I just feel like it's a really complicated topic. I definitely wanted to talk about it because I even remember having some conversations with my dad about the amount of guys that I had slept with at one point when I was in college. And he was like, well, I can count all the women that I've actually ever slept with on one hand. And that was back in the day when that actually meant something and this, that, whatever. I'm like, oh, okay. You were very educated by Southern Baptist West Virginia and what your parents grew up with. And I feel like having some of that context helped. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not looking forward to when that day comes. I hope that I will have some kind of semblance of a cohesive thought to tell my daughter. Because I don't think it's a very healthy thing for a mom to tell her teenage daughter, fuck them, do you?
Yeah. I'm curious. So, like, for me, I know that, like, I grew up, ironically enough, I'm from Maryland, which is, DC, Virginia, Maryland, the DMV. We grew up also Southern Baptist, so, like, very much understand, that thing. And I often wonder, people that grew up with a religious parent that was religious enough to take you, but not religious enough to shove it down your throat. If later on in life, when they realize that, like, the world is bigger than they realized, and you already said, like, you subscribed to that thinking then, and then you realized the world was bigger than you realized, and now you have a different level of understanding and thinking. When it comes to something like this topic, like body count specifically, do you think that the pendulum will swing further for your daughter because you won't be like, you will swing that pendulum further the other direction, where you give her more freedom, less guidelines on what she should or shouldn't be because you had too many or felt as though you were pushed into a belief? So rather than pushing any belief on it, you allow her to make up her mind with almost total freedom and autonomy.
I'm going to err on that side just because I know that my husband and I are going to balance each other out. And we're going to meet in the middle. I'm going to come educated from a place where this whole episode has been about where I'm educated from and where I made some of these foundational assumptions from a young age. But he was raised Catholic, and I'm very proud of him and the education he's the learning that he's done in the last couple of years. I think really a cool thing for us was leaving Missouri in adulthood and moving to Denver, which even just being out and about in a different city that doesn't look anything like what we grew up around kind of challenged some of those foundational assumptions to the point where, like back in the day, I'm not very confident that my husband would say what he is now. I gave him a hypothetical long before we were married, but after we were in Denver and some of his preconceived notions had been challenged and he'd done some educating and had left this, small town in Missouri. I asked him, like, what if we have a kid someday and they come out and say that they're gay? Like, what are we going to do? And he's like, oh, I'll be fine. That was not always his fucking answer to that question.
Yeah.
When we're talking about promiscuity and we're talking about some of these other topics that we've hit on, I'm very interested to see how we navigate that together in parenthood and marriage. Just because I'm constantly pointing out examples of misogyny. I'm constantly challenging some of his preconceived notions or cracking jokes about, this, that, whatever. Like, oh, my big dumb uterus gets in the way. I can't do that. I can't mow the lawn. My big dumb uterus gets in the way. Like, oops, here we go. When in fact, here we are in our marriage now where my husband and I, we challenge some of those traditional gender norms in our own house. I do not wake up on Saturday mornings, cook breakfast, and make sure that the laundry gets started. He does that shit. I sleep in. And I'm just very blessed to be in a marriage where that is a thing that occurs. So long story short, I know my daughter is being raised in the same area of Missouri that I was raised in. I know the influence that very religious parents are going to be having on kids that she's going to be growing up with. I know what some of those teachers, what some of those educators, what some of those school volunteers will be instilling with her, especially when it comes time in middle school to start having conversations about sex education. I'm more confident that my husband and I will be a unified front and teamwork makes the dream work versus all of these other outside influences, especially just here where we're at. But the other thing too, I was in middle school, fucking 15, 20 years ago? I don't know. I don't math. I don't really know. In 2008. So almost 20 years ago, maybe 15, somewhere around there.
Yeah, 15 this year.
Yeah. Thank you, Matt. God, my big dumb uterus gets in the way. I can't
our anniversary is 2008. That's the only reason why I know.
Oh, okay. See, Courtney, that's awesome. But yeah, so I have some hope that maybe sex education would have changed in fucking 15 years. Maybe, obviously longer until my 2-year-old now gets into middle school and starts having those conversations. I don't know. I guess time will tell. Are your daughters getting to that point where they're starting to have those conversations in school?
My oldest one, the people that she's around are one of her friends popped up on my Instagram. I'll just say that, because her phone number is in my phone as a friend of my child. So it was a contact that probably was like, oh, this phone number is linked to an account. You may know this person. And I was like,
oh, that's going to be a whole other fucking episode when we start talking about social media.
I was like, what the hell? And then I was like, man, I know that my kid doesn't have a social media. And when she was trying to, it was like, yo, don't be stupid. This is not a thing. We're going to figure this out together. But anyway, it just becomes, for her, she's into so much of her own thing that if it's come up similarly to me when I was her age, it just didn't matter to me. I cared more about being creative and, you know, having fun in my life than any of that. And my youngest one is, like you said, too young to have it be a thing now, but also like she's real stabby, so I assume she's going to scare every boy away anyway, so I don't know that I'm going to have to worry about it. She's either going to be the one that's like steamrolling the boys on the football field so they don't want to mess with her anyway, she's like just one of the guys, or she's going to be one of those girls where like all of the girls don't like her, so she's just going to be kind of like aloof about all of it anyway. So
hell yeah. And no matter what she's going to do, she's going to do it well. We got some Hopefully. Badass kids here at Homesroom. So before we go, I want to, if you've made it this far into this episode, you endured my rant, you've been somewhat level of entertained. First of all, thank you for listening to this shit, because I feel better having got it out of my brain. Second of all, I want to hear from you guys. I feel like this is a topic that we just like started scratching the surface on, and I'm not really quite sure where the conversation goes from here. Here at Homesroom, we definitely want to have open conversation about some of these complicated topics, and there's so much deprogramming and shame and body like related shame, sex related shame that stems from this topic of promiscuity and how it inversely affects women versus men, that I really want to hear from our listeners. So please, will you call in, send us a DM on Instagram, reach out to us on Threads, send a fucking messenger pigeon at this point. That's totally fine. What were we off base on? What was I off base on here? Because you just really kind of just sat back and let me rant. So thank you, Matt. But what are some things that you have caught yourself in? Have any of you actually even heard of Pearly Girly, just Pearly Things, Pearl Davis? Or is my algorithm just so off the wall that I need to like send a toaster up into space and ask the YouTube gods, please help me? I don't want to see this shit. So that's what she said, Matt.
I like it. Like I said, I mean, I did sit back and let you talk, but like, honestly, I don't know. That's a subject I don't have an opinion on. And to me, I don't know enough about it to have an opinion on it. So like, I don't know those people. I haven't listened to what they have to say. I mean, I could tell by just the things that I've heard of you and other people, like when they bring it up, that like, it's not people that I would like subscribe to. Like, that's cool, but just like stay the fuck over there. Don't bring that over here. But again, it comes back to like, you know, giving you the space to have the conversation, because chances are if you feel that way, somebody else probably feels the same way. And you know, as far as like my opinion on body count goes and what you said, like, I think it's the dumbest thing ever. When I first heard that term, I had no idea what the hell they were talking about, and it was a like 18, 19-year-old. So I was like, man, this is some new dumb shit. And like, I finally feel what my parents feel like when we were like, oh, that shit's tight, and they're like, tight? What the fuck? You know, like that's what my mind went to, and I was like, that's stupid. But also, why does it even matter? And even more so, like, in no context does that value anything except for maybe like your level of comfortable you are with yourself. Because if you're comfortable with the fact that your body count, if you want to use that term, is higher than something else, then like, cool, then you're comfortable with it. If you're ashamed of it, then like, find where that shame comes from, and maybe there's something that needs to be like healed, and work on healing rather than a body count or worrying about a body count. Like, that's where it ends for me. I don't know the rest of it. Like, if you're misogynistic, if you're like anti-feminist, if you're any of those things, again, like, that's cool for you, but like, keep that shit over there. That's not, I don't got no time for it.
We don't subscribe to that stuff.
Yeah, but you should subscribe to the podcast. That is the thing you should do. So thanks for being here.
You really just fucking snuck that in on us, Matt. Damn.
I did.
All right, friends, we adore you. Thank you for being here. Join us next week when I will teach Matt what the meaning of the word Riz is.
Yeah, right. I don't know what that is, so maybe that will happen. The bell is about to ring. If you want to drop us a voice message or simply ask a question, you can do that by clicking the link in the show notes below. Be sure to leave us a 5-star review. It helps more people find us. Theme music by Kinsey. More music available on Spotify. Remember, every day is a class. Go learn something.